Hello and welcome to our live streaming that we are doing every Friday in English here from the University of Love and Knowledge. I am very happy to be able to communicate with all of you. My name is Abril Medina, and our institution, our university, is located in Guadalajara, Mexico, in the street of Francia, France, but it's in Spanish, 1764. You can communicate with us. You can send us messages through Facebook Messenger, through a WhatsApp number, and also through our live transmissions and streamings. You can write messages right there, and you can ask your questions, you can share experiences, and you can tell us anything you want to know. We even take criticism or any comments that you may want to share with us. So what we're doing now is that every week we have a live transmission or live streaming in English. Every day we do it in Spanish, but we know that there is an enormous need for people to understand a lot more about themselves. So that is the purpose of these streamings that we do. We have 3 different channels through which we do this streaming live every Friday at 12. One of them is our Facebook page. The other one is our YouTube channel. And the last one, but not least important, is our website, which is www.uncoa.com. You can communicate and find us and share, so a lot more people can listen and understand a lot more about this knowledge that we are trying and this research that we are trying to share with as many people as possible. Well, so for today we're going to have a very interesting topic, which might sound very simple, but it's very important for a lot. This week I was talking about this topic in Spanish, and I had very interesting comments about people who said, I never looked at it that way. So let's see how it works for you now and how you feel about this topic, which might result or might seem very simple, but it can change your perspective and your point of view of a lot of things. This week we were talking in Spanish about the difference between having and using a positive thought, positive thinking, and negative thinking. We were talking about what being optimistic means and what it really represents as a moral value or as a value in terms of the frequency you are thinking and moving on. So what we were saying is that being optimistic, a lot of people think that you are going to be always in a mental state of mind in which everything is positive and nothing negative comes through. What happens is that when you are in this process trying to cultivate and to increase your positive thinking, what happens is that it's not that you are absolutely always, all the time thinking positively. What happens is that your tendency is to look on the bright side. What happens when you do that? What is the importance? You might think that it's just a way of looking at life or a way of looking at things. The thing is that when you start setting yourself in a different state of mind, the whole frequency around you changes. And what happens is that you have the possibility to change not only your perspective. It's not just the way you see it or the way you look at it, is that the frequency, the magnetic field that you start creating around yourself changes everything. So maybe you never saw or never looked at it in that perspective or that point of view. Sometimes we think that being positive just means putting a happy face or putting a good face before anything that happens around you, but we don't know that it has an intention. Intention is important. Why? Because intention gives you the next step in order to take action accordingly. When you have a positive intention, what happens is that you are starting from a perspective or from a point of view which already has a specific frequency. And this frequency takes you to the next step. It doesn't mean that you're just going to sort of, let's say it in this way. It's not that you are swallowing your problems. It's not that you are swallowing your negative thoughts. What you're trying to do is change completely the way you think and then start looking at it from a different point of view. And so when we talk about positive thinking or about optimistic thinking, we are not talking about not having any problems, about thinking that life is perfect and nothing wrong ever happens, nothing negative ever happens. What means is that the point of view, the attitude that you take towards those problems that you must have to face from time to time changes, and it's different. When we talk to people and we tell them that for every single problem there are more than 100 solutions, sometimes it seems difficult to understand that that might be possible. When we are immersed in a problem, we think that there is no way out. It becomes difficult, and then what happens is it's sort of like you have a shadow over your head, which makes it difficult for you to think outside of the box. When we have a positive thought, what we do is that we increase these possibilities, because instead of being inside of this dark bubble or inside of this box which imprisons your thought and imprisons the way you work and the way you act towards a problem, what happens is that you are opening your horizons and making it easier for you to see all those possibilities. A few days ago, one of my friends, the one who does also live streaming every Saturday, he was saying that whenever you release an idea, it becomes real and it stays there. It doesn't disappear. Sometimes we tend to think that if we release an idea, we have this thought, it's just we think about it, and when we forget about this thought, it will disappear. Well, it's not that way, because thoughts, we were saying, are energy. So if we understand that energy can be created but it cannot be destroyed, what happens when you have this thought in which you sometimes place all these negative ideas, place all this negative energy, place all this negative frequency, and then you just don't think about it anymore? Do you think that it disappears? Well, let me tell you that it doesn't disappear. What happens is that you release it, and it becomes part of this mental dimension that we probably don't see, and sometimes we don't have the awareness to understand that it's a reality, but it's right there. So imagine, let's envision these thoughts as if they were clouds. What happens is that all the same way that the water evaporates and it becomes part of the sky in the form of clouds, the same thing happens with these thoughts. So if all these people are having the same kind of thoughts, we are connecting ourselves to this same, let's imagine that we are a computer. So what are you connecting to? What is the web that you are connecting to? Well, you are connecting directly to this same kind of web, which has the same kind of ideas. Some sort of what happens. Have you noticed, for example, that if you are surfing the web and you're looking for a trip to Paris, what happens is that whenever you go online, you open Facebook or you open Google or you open any other of those pages that you usually, or sites that you usually use to search for things. What happens is that they send you messages telling you about cheap tickets to Paris, or flight trips to Paris, or hotels in Paris, just because at some point you were making, or you were doing a search for that information specifically. So in programming, they have these special algorithms and mathematics and programs and everything. I'm not an expert in that, but I know that as soon as you feed this information into your computer, it goes all the way to all of these places where they have the information, and they say, oh, she's looking for trips to Paris, and we are trying to sell these trips to Paris. So let's go and send her all this information so now she can buy something from us. I don't know if this makes any sense to you, but this is the same way that happens when we have certain thoughts. When you are releasing these thoughts into let's imagine that if they were water, if they were drops of water becoming clouds, let's imagine that we're releasing these thoughts into the atmosphere. So what happens is that they become a whole, and at some point what you do is, whenever you are trying to connect with a different idea, every time you go and you connect with the same kind of of ideas. How am I going to change that? What you're going to do in order to change that is that you're going to change the kind of thoughts that you're having. If instead of trip to Paris, I were looking for trips to Rome, well, I wouldn't get information about trips to Paris. I would get information about trips to Rome. Or what I usually tell my students, if you're always, let's imagine that we're going to make a dessert. So before I make the dessert, I'm going to use cocoa, I'm going to use chocolate, I'm going to use chocolate chips, I'm going to use probably melted chocolate, and then I'm going to mix it all together. I'm going to put it in the oven, and then when I take it out, what kind of dessert am I going to get? Is it going to be a vanilla dessert? Is it going to be a strawberry dessert? It's not possible because I didn't put any strawberries in it. I didn't put any vanilla in it. What I used was chocolate. So what I'm gonna get is chocolate, a chocolate dessert, a chocolate cake, or a chocolate pudding, whatever I was making. So anyhow, it's the same thing that happens with thoughts. When I am constantly putting all these negative thoughts into me, releasing all these negative thoughts into the mental dimension, what's going to happen? I am going to be constantly receiving and connecting with more of the same. That is what makes it important to cultivate, to create, to use positive thinking. An optimistic point of view helps you not only to look on the bright side, helps you change the whole perspective, but also the whole atmosphere, the whole magnetism in which you move, in which you work, in which you live, because you are surrounded by all of these frequencies that create this magnetic field in which you are. So it's no surprise that when something wrong happens, a lot of bad situations continue to happen, and then we think that we just have plain bad luck. A lot of the times the people say when it rains it pours. I have heard that saying. So the reason why it happens that way, when it rains, it pours, it means that when you have a negative thought or a negative attitude towards a certain situation, and you continue to have the same idea, the same negative thought, the same negative attitude, the same negative action, you're going to get what? More of the same. So if you want to leave that mental state, if you want to get out of this circle and not continue to have more of this negative, what am I going to do? What is the right answer? What I have to do is to start thinking differently. And that is what being optimistic means. Start looking at problems as an opportunity to find solutions. Start looking at a problem merely as a problem. When we look at a problem as something dramatic, something that is probably a punishment from heaven, something that it represents bad luck, something that represents karma, something that represents that I don't deserve to be happy, then I'm going to be immersed in this same kind of negative thought. When I start looking at problems as just an opportunity to learn something, it is just that, it's just a problem. There are more than 100 possibilities, more than 100. It could be thousands of possibilities to solve the same thing. But listen to me. If I am immersed in this same kind of thought, what's going to happen? It is as if, as though I had a helmet doesn't let me think because I can't get through anything. So what I have to do is to start opening my thoughts and my ideas and thinking, it is just a problem. All I have to do is find the solution. When I start trying to find the solution for that problem, what's going to happen is that since I am not placing myself in this negative train of thought, what is going to happen is that I'm going to open my possibilities. So all of the ideas that are there in the magnetic field that surrounds me, in which there are solutions for the same problem, are going to come to me. So it doesn't mean that I have to have the information within myself or the solution within myself. It means that I have to open the possibilities so I can find the solution within all of these mental dimensions in which there are all kinds of ideas. It depends on me. I am the only one who can decide whether I'm going to connect myself with the correct idea or with the incorrect idea. Well, I'm going to connect myself with all of these negative clouds that will only bring me more rain, or connect myself with all of these fluffy clouds that are probably going to bring me more sunshine. I don't know if you are getting this, but it's important that you understand that there is an important impact in the way we think. There is an important impact in our life, in our decisions, and therefore in the results. So sometimes we think that positive thinking is just an idea, a lot of mumbo jumbo that people use just to make you think. And we look at all these affirmations that we see over the internet, and we look at all of these positive thoughts, and we think that they are no good, that they do no good to anyone, that they are just words. Well, words have a frequency. Words have a vibration. When I wish you well, when I look at you and I hope everything is okay for you, when I hope for you to have a happy life, a happy birthday, a good day, a nice weekend, I am already sending all this intention towards you. And this is important. It is not just something that you say. It has an important impact energetically on you and on everything that surrounds me. Now, when we talk about that, the fact that there is a law of cause and effect, and that is pure science. That is not something that I am creating, or is something that I am using just to say, to give fundament to whatever I'm saying. There is a law of cause and effect. So if the causes are right, the effects will be right too. And there is always, because that is a natural law. Those are universal laws. If I am always thinking, working, acting, using this mental state, this intention, which is positive, which is correct, which is loving, which is soft, which is sweet, which is tender, what are the kinds of reactions that I'm going to get? What are the kinds of effects that I'm going to get? So whenever there are problems or difficulties in my life, I have to find a way to look at it in a different perspective. Every problem just represents the opportunity to learn something new. You know, what happens is that when I am not learning through action, through problems, through situations that present themselves throughout my life, what's going to happen is that the universe is going to give me more and more and more opportunities, because it is that generous. So sometimes I am thinking that all of these problems come to me because it's some sort of punishment. It is not a punishment. I'm sorry. It is a lesson to be learned. So what happens? Let's imagine that I'm trying to learn how to roller skate. If I'm doing it wrong, I will probably fall and hurt myself. If I continue to do it wrong, I'm probably going to fall again and hurt myself again. When am I going to stop hurting myself? When I learn to do it right. How am I going to learn to do it right? Being conscious, taking action, looking at the way I'm doing it, and trying to learn to do it differently. If I notice that I'm doing it some sort of way which makes me fall again, if I'm doing it in a place that is not appropriate for the learning, and I'm going to continue to fall. So as soon as I start being more observant of the situation, then I will have the possibility to change. If I am learning to drive a car, well, I'm going to have to do it in specific conditions. I'm not going to take a street with a lot of traffic or transit. I'm going to take a street in which I'm going to be calm and relax, and I can do it slowly, and I can take a look and be aware of everything that I have to move and use in the car. So that is the way all the learning processes work. How do people achieve perfection? How do people achieve the process of learning? Through practice. Well, the universe, thank you. The universe does the same for us. It gives us the possibility and the opportunity to practice over and over again. So if you are facing the same problem over and over again, and you are facing it with the same negative attitude, probably you will have exactly the same or worse results. How am I going to change that? Changing my attitude, changing the way I look at things, changing the way I react towards those things, and doing it differently. That is the only way I can start getting different results, and then finally, let's say, pass the lesson and continue and move on to new situations, to new lessons. But that one I'm not going to have to repeat again. How is that going to happen? By learning. That is the exact reason why people have the possibility to go through a lot of experimentation towards throughout the course of their life. If you look at the people who are around you and you notice that are people who are facing over and over the same problem with the same attitude, you will notice that the problem never goes away. In fact, sometimes it repeats itself and it becomes worse. Have you ever noticed that? Sometimes, for example, people who we know and are having problems with their partner, life partner, or with the couple they live with, sometimes what happens is that they move from one person to the other, to the other, to the next, and they face the same situations or worse situations because they don't take the time to learn. Usually what we're doing is we're looking at it from a perspective in which we think that the other ones have to change, that everything has to work in order for me to learn, but the rest, everything that is outside of me has to be the way I expect it to be in order for me to have a happier life or better results. So being optimistic gives me the possibility to know that everything happens for a reason, that everything is a process of learning, that everything has a solution, and that everything will pass, that I have in my hand the constant opportunity to change the results of everything that is going on around my life. Being optimistic or being a person with positive thinking doesn't mean that you are in a fantasy world. With a lot of people think that being optimistic means that you live in a fantasy world, that you are being unrealistic, and that nothing good is going to happen, but it's just a way of saying. Sometimes you also may think that this positive thinking is just on the outside, and in the inside everything is also negative. The real thing is that whenever you change your ideas, your thoughts, and your intentions, you become positive in the inside and on the outside, and the results become also positive possibilities and opportunities. That is the reason why being optimistic, it can become a value in a person, not only because of the image that you show on the outside, but also because of the magnetism that you can create for your own self. The law of attraction is a reality. So what happens is that when you want to attract better things for yourself, well, you have to use this positive thinking, knowing in this moment things are really bad. It doesn't mean that you don't acknowledge that something is bad or something is going wrong or something is hurting or something is a problem. Being positive just gives you the opportunity to know that you are going to be able to get out of that situation, that you have the tools within yourself, that you have the mental opportunities to solve the problem, to feel better, and not just to stay there. What happens when people don't give themselves a chance to change the way they think? Then these same ways of thinking and acting become chronic states of mind, and they can also become depression, they can also become anxiety, they can also become different kinds of disorders that at some point in your life become more and more worrisome. And then that is the reason why sometimes people, when they reach the age of between 40 and 50, they can have different kinds of crises. Why? Because throughout their whole lives, they have been using and functioning throughout the same mental archives or these mental files that lead them to work and think in a specific way, and they always continue to get the same results, and it comes to a point in which they feel devastated and sad because they have not been able to change their own lives, and they feel, I'm already almost halfway and I haven't been able to change anything that surrounds me. Well, understanding that the way you think also attracts the same kinds of things gives you the possibility to change the results that you have been getting so far. If you want to change your life, change the way you think. change the way you act. Be more positive. Why? Because being positive opens the opportunity for you to understand that every situation that you face throughout your life has a reason to be there. There is no situation that happens just randomly. Everything happens for a reason, and that reason is that you need to learn something very specific. Sometimes we might not understand what the lesson is, but if we change the action, if we change the reaction, if we change the way we usually do things, we might be able to just pass the lesson, understand, and then go on to the next happier, safer, with a lot more certainty, understanding that it is with myself the opportunity and the possibility to have a better life. Yes, because positive thinking also creates this magnetic field that I'm talking about. So little by little, we're going to start explaining and trying to help you understand what we're talking about when we talk about frequencies, when we talk about energy, when we talk about creating for yourself a magnetic field, which is a reality. It's something that we move along, and it changes everything around us. The kind of magnetic field that we create for ourselves attracts the people and the situations that we have to face every day. So if you are unhappy with the people who are around you, that says a lot more about you than it says about them. If I am surrounded by these people who make me so unhappy, I have to understand what is going on with myself, not with themselves. I am the one who has to change, not the others. Once I get the grip of this, then I have the possibility to change everything that surrounds me. But especially, I have to start from the inside. That is something that a lot of us have trouble understanding. It has to be from the inside out, not the other way around. If I am waiting and hoping for the rest of the people to be and do the way I like, then I'm going to die and come again and die and come again, expecting everyone to do it the way I prefer, I would desire for them to be. The only one that I can change is my own self. And that is exactly what we do here. That is exactly what we're looking for. We're trying to help you learn to understand yourself. The knowledge that we are talking about is the knowledge of oneself. And that is a knowledge that will take you to happiness. And that is exactly the main objective of our institution. That is the reason why we do what we do. And we know that it's possible because we have been researching, investigating, and working very hard for over 30 years in order to help humankind understand themselves. And you're probably thinking, what about all these scientists and psychologists and psychiatrists and important people who have worked toward that goal and haven't made it possible? What makes you different? Well, we know this information has results that have been tested, and we already know that is something that can be proven. It's not something I'm telling you that you have to believe just because I say so. It's something that you have the opportunity to experience, research, and find for your own self. Anyway, I hope to see you next Friday, because every Friday we're going to be doing these, we're going to have these dialogues. I'm looking for you to ask questions, to post your experiences, and to help us make this a dialogue and not a monologue. We are working hard because we really think and we believe and feel that humankind needs a change, and the only way that humankind is going to change is to understand that there is a light within each one of you. As long as you don't get in touch with your own light, you don't understand that you are the light that represents change in humanity, then we will persist and we will continue to insist that you have to learn, because as long as we don't understand that, we won't be able to make the change that humanity needs. My name is Abril Medina. I am here. I am very happy to have the opportunity to communicate with as many people as possible, because we know that change is possible. We have created this, which we call a tree, because we know that if this information and this knowledge gets to a lot more people, it will become as branches which provide shade to as many people as possible. All we look is for you to be born into the love that you were meant to. Since you were born into this physical body, you were looking to fulfill a specific objective. Just don't miss the opportunity. Give us the opportunity also to help you find your life objective and to be happier. Anyway, what we usually say whenever we say goodbye is that we hope that you have a very good life. The reason why we say that is that because we know that we don't want you to have a nice day or a nice weekend or a nice morning or a nice birthday or just a Merry Christmas. We want your whole life, your complete life, every second, every moment to be as nice, as loving, as perfect as is possible. So that is why we use this term, saying that we wish, we hope, we desire for you to have a good life. And that is exactly what I'm going to say today before I say goodbye. I hope with all my heart you have a very good life.